Welcome back to Feedback Loop. This is a podcast. I'm Jeremy,
I'm Joey.
and we're talking about music. Specifically, this week we're talking about the album Shallow Grave by the tallest man on Earth, which is a very bold claim. I don't think he can back that up.
Yeah, it is a bold claim. Hopefully you can figure out why he named himself that after listening to this album.
We'll see. This album is kind of a folksy, bluegrassy album. The tallest man on Earth himself is Swedish. So it's an interesting combination of a Swedish man making what, in my mind anyways, is traditionally American music.
Well, it is. He's Mr. Christian Matson is his
Christian
name.
Matson.
Was very much inspired by like Bob Dylan. I believe Nick Drake is one of his inspirations.
You mean Drake and Josh?
But he's
right?
yeah, Drake and Josh. Yes, Drake Bell and Josh Peck. They started a duo. Influenced Tallest Man on Earth.
It's impressive
That's what
the reach that those guys have. Anyways, it's why did you choose this album?
I chose this album because I don't know. He's the tallest man on earth. Christian. I'm gonna call him Christian because the reason
because you're on a first name basis with him.
Yeah, I'm on a first name basis with. Well, the thing is, he's actually recently been doing live streams on his YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
Just like he'll just play a bunch of
Is
music.
that
like
because
I
of
think it was
the pandemic that's currently happening, or is it happening before then?
He's doing the live streams because of the pandemic. He wants to just reach out with people. Like he just goes on there and takes requests. Like this past week, I think it was on Friday, he just did a whole hour and a half of covers that people had requested.
Nice.
Before that, he played. It was The Wild Hunt is one of his other studio albums. He played that album in its entirety because a bunch of people were requesting it.
Yeah, Alyssa, your partner, said that was one of her like top 5 favorite albums of all time. I thought it was interesting that you chose this one instead.
Yeah, it's given. I don't know. I thought it would be a better next step, I guess.
Sure. To follow
because
up that
I don't
Alexi
know.
Murdoch album.
Yeah. Granted, the very first song I heard by the tallest man on earth was off of The Wild Hunt, but I don't know. Shallow Grave, I like it more. It's more raw. I like it because of that.
I can dig it.
I like each of his albums for a different reason. I like this one because it's more raw. It's just like a guy and his guitar or banjo, whatever he's playing. But
so yeah, the album art of this album, there's not a whole lot to discuss. It's the picture of this, a picture of the sky, not the picture of a sky. It's a picture of the sky, the one and only sky. Got some clouds in it. It's got some nice blue in it, and it has, in a very simple font, his artist name. It says "The Tallest Man on Earth," debut album, Shallow Grave, and it has some like descriptive text, which isn't commonly seen on the front of album. So it has like cat.nr, which I'm assuming is like category number, or
yeah,
like
I think it was like the number of his in the catalog of
number,
the
sure.
record, wherever that, like whatever studio he recorded
Yeah,
it at.
and it says GR028, which I think is explained in the following line. It also has some long code, which I'm guessing is like an ISBN or something. But then it says CNP Gravitation Sweden 2008. So I think that's like where he was, the label he was working with, and the year he recorded it and stuff like that, which it's interesting because again, I don't think I've seen that on many albums, if any. Nothing's coming to mind.
Yeah, and I mean, not to read too much into it, but I think it kind of plays to his whole like putting it out there, like because this album is just him. It's just him recording himself. Some of the actual state of the recording is kind of like rougher quality, I guess.
Just like our podcast.
And I think it's yeah, there we go. I think it's kind of just him like putting it all out there, being like, this is just here's the catalog number of what I recorded in this and this. It's just a picture. The background is the sky. Just very simple, minimalistic.
It works, and I think the reason he chose this guy, well, I guess I don't know the reason, but I think the fact that he chose this guy kind of fits the theme of this album. And I'll kind of explain why
Definitely.
after we go through it, because there's kind of a theme that I picked up on. But we'll
Mhm.
we'll get to that afterwards. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. We have 10 songs on this album, 30 minutes, another short album coming from Joey.
Ah,
Just
I gotta pick those
yeah,
short
we
albums,
have to
man.
wax poetically about short albums every week now until we hit a long album.
It's gonna be a theme.
But we'll see. The first track, "I Won't Be Found." This track, it starts off. It's got some nice guitars. I really like
Oh,
the
yeah.
guitar in it, and his voice. I cannot decide still to this at this point whether or not I like them or I can't stand them. Which I mean, I guess I can stand them,
Yeah,
but I'm not sure how I feel about it because, as we mentioned, he's Swedish, imitating a very American, a very like Southern country esque singing. So like I like his melodies and I like the texture of his voice, but there's some weird like enunciations or emphasis that he puts on things, probably because he's Swedish.
definitely,
But
definitely.
it almost sounds like he's overcompensating for being Swedish and trying to sing like an
Mhm.
American, and it's he's taking it a step too far, I think, in my opinion.
And that's because before we got on here, I kinda said, like, I don't know, I thought I knew how you would react to this album and his voice. Given how you said you originally felt about Theo's voice from Nana
Yeah.
Grizzle, I was like, "I don't know if he's gonna really, like, jive with Christian's
Yeah, I
voice."
mean, and we've
But
mentioned before, I'm very picky with vocals, so I think
yeah.
I think it's reasonable to have that expectation of me, and you weren't totally off the mark. Um, but yeah, it just kind of like sometimes he sounds kind of like Droopy Dog a little bit, which is a
Mhm.
very strange reference, but that's where my mind went.
Yeah. No, I
And
feel
in
you.
this song specifically, he was like adding syllables to words. Like he ends
Mhm.
his lines by saying like in the meadow, wah, or like ha at the
Yeah.
end, or like the Serengeti ha, which just doesn't make sense to me. He does it a couple times throughout the song.
How much Bob Dylan have you
Not a
listened
whole
to?
lot, honestly.
Okay.
But I'm
Okay.
aware that I'm not a big fan of Bob Dylan's voice either, or his singing style.
Okay, because he's kind of in the same vein of singing style as Bob
Yeah,
Dylan, I would say, but he has a better voice, I
yeah,
think.
that's probably fair.
Well, I
I don't
mean,
like Bob Dylan that much.
like,
Like, I get it.
yeah.
Bob Dylan has had a huge impact on music, and he's in
Mhm.
so many things that people don't realize. But I don't know. I can't get into his music.
Yeah, and I will say, partway through the week, I kind of reconsidered this album
Right.
from The Tallest Man on Earth simply because this before this project, he was the singer in kind of like a rock band, so his voice was more raw in it. And then he switched to this, which I feel like
He
he
carried over some.
definitely suit like yeah, like beginning he's kind of like screaming a lot and it's raspy
Yeah.
and like kind of out there and he still had a pretty heavy Swedish accent. I mean, he still does kind of, but he had a heavier Swedish accent whenever he was recording this
Yeah,
album.
honestly, I don't think I would have noticed that. I would have noted that he sounded strange, but I don't think I would have been able to say like, "Oh,
Mhm.
he's clearly like Scandinavian or whatever." I think he has a pretty good American
Yeah,
voice, but there's just some
he
weird things
does.
that he chooses to do with it that I
Yeah,
can't get
and
into.
like nowadays, his voice he's reined it in a lot. Like he has kind of your more standard folk voice, but he's still got like what makes him him.
Right.
But it's definitely reined in more
Interesting.
nowadays.
So maybe I'll like one of his newer albums.
Yeah, like if you tried his newest album, I can't think of the name of it, but whatever his newest album is, I think you might like that more.
Okay.
But
Maybe
I wanted to start off on this one.
I think his newest album is called "I Love You." It's a fever dream.
It is.
Maybe I'll check that out after the show. But yeah, lyrically, I Won't Be Found. It kind of took me a minute to come to a conclusion on, and that's kind of something that happens throughout this album. is
Mhm.
I don't know if it's how he uses metaphors or if he just uses strange idioms, but a lot of the songs, it took me a kind of a couple listens to like process what he was getting at. But I think the song is kind of about him wanting to see the world and explore and then settle down somewhere that no one will ever find him, which is kind of like I guess it's not necessarily contradictory, but he talks about wanting to go
Mhm.
places but also wanting to stay someplace.
Okay, so I'm glad you actually said that and put so much emphasis on I think because the way he uses metaphors and the way he talks about things, it's just so vague. Like everything that I
Yeah.
wrote down this week, it includes the words. I think he means this. I think I've listened to this album so many times, and like I still don't know what he's talking about fully, and I still can't
Yeah.
figure out exactly what it means. And I think it has something to do with the fact that he, like you said, he's Swedish. He's learning an more American style of
Yeah.
music from American folk musicians, like like Bob Dylan, who uses so many types of metaphors in his songs, so many ambiguities. Somebody who's a non-English speaker, kind of trying to learn that. I think that something there caused him to be extra vague, I guess, with his metaphors.
I'm glad you said that because I was worried about that through most of this album, just, like, not being 100%
No,
what the fuck he's
it's
talking
fair,
about.
and it's something that like with his voice, I think over time it's gotten, I guess, quote unquote better, depending on what you would see as better. But as time has gone on,
Sure.
it's gotten a little bit less vague. But so what I see from this song is, like you said, him wanting to kind of get away. I think this song is about like being able to disappear, wanting to be able to disappear, I guess. Like just go somewhere where you won't be found, but like somewhere different. Go away and just be away from people. I guess that's kind of what I've always got from it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's kind of a relatable thing, being being able to find a place to call your own and not
Hmm.
interact with a lot of people. At least it's appealing to me as a very I don't wanna say antisocial, but,
Yeah,
I'm not a people person.
maybe an introvert would be a better word.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, the next song, if you're done with that one, because
Yeah.
man, Pistol Dreams, like the next song, it's called Pistol Dreams. Once again, I don't entirely know what the song is about. It's
This song, I specifically didn't know what he was talking about. I noted, I have no clue what this song means. It seems like a lot of nonsense lyrics.
yeah.
Musically, I think it's fine, but out of all of the tracks, this one I couldn't figure out.
So what I kind of think it's about, what I've kind of, I guess, gleaned over the years is like you're trying to work on issues with someone and I don't know, like you can't.
So,
Hmm.
I will say, I looked these lyrics up on Lyric Genius, and there was a theory that someone had that kinda seemed interesting, and I guess it kinda made sense.
Hmm.
But I didn't I didn't glean that myself, and I didn't wanna take credit for that, and I didn't wanna, like, necessarily support it, but it seems that there's a lot of religious context to this album. So it starts off, he says, "So deep into the orchard, you'll stumble on the skins of snakes." And this person suggested that they're referring to the Garden of Eden and making a mistake. So stumbling on the skins of snakes is them someone making a mistake, literally. And the rest of the song kind of like has of some various consequences of that, such as Noah flooding the world, because he mentions something about on a far out ocean with a whale, and they'll paint the house with water and stuff like that. So it seems vague, but I can kind of see it. Specifically, at some point, he says, "You said I look just like Mosiah,"
Yeah.
which could be interpreted as Messiah.
Yeah, that's what I always thought he was saying. Like I always thought he was saying I look just like Messiah, but
Yeah.
I guess
So
Mosiah, I
there
don't
could be some religious thing. The Lyric Genius lyrics say Mosiah
know.
is the
Okay.
only reason I said that. But it could actually be Messiah. But yeah, so it I guess it lines up, but I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable just agreeing with that. But if that's the leading theory that we have, then so be it.
I could kind of see that simply because of later songs on this album seeming to have some I don't I haven't full
There was one song in specific later in the album that I kind of got a similar vibe, I suppose. But I hadn't really picked up on a lot of religious references per se.
yeah. And I mean, from knowing him, I don't think he's really a religious person, but I mean, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it could just be that he wanted to write about it, right?
yeah.
And granted, I think the song with that religious context or that religious filter is more about like accepting your mistakes and living with them. Just using religion as kind of a comparison for that and saying like, "Hey, the Garden of Eden, they fucked up, and now I've stumbled into the same situation,
Yeah.
and now I have to deal with consequences."
Yeah, I like what I kind of get from this is with another person, if you're trying to work on issues, you're so caught up in kind of your side of it that you don't
Yeah,
even pay attention, I guess, to how the other person is taking you trying to fix these issues. And I mean, like I said, the lyrics are so ambiguous, I guess.
right.
But like I don't know, just lyrics like "and I will boil the curtains to extract the drugs of springtimes." Like
Mm,
it make me think of like you're doing these things without thinking of the consequences. Almost like this is gonna sound weird. Like okay, you're boiling the curtains to get the essence of the sun that hits them, but then
right.
you don't have curtains after that. Like you're not thinking of how other people might
Yeah,
like
I think that theme is something that's iterated a few times throughout this
yeah.
album, so I can see that making sense.
Yeah, because we will paint our house with water to have an outlet for a sigh. Oh, and as I never see the changes, I will be useless as I try. You're painting the house
Yeah,
with water. It's gonna.
knowing it's in vain.
Yeah, it's in vain.
Shit.
Uh oh. Uh
Some
oh.
some fell. We're fine.
But yeah, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. So.
Yeah, I think it's just as valid as any other interpretation, uh, and especially more so because I have none. I have no notes of my own on this track. The next track, "Honey, Won't You Let Me In." This one I could kind of understand a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It seems to me it seems to be about a breakup,
Hmm.
possibly due to him cheating. I know he mentions lonely minds drifting, and he uses seasons throughout this album, and it kind of ties back to what you said in the first track. He uses nature themes a lot,
Yeah,
which is why I think it's okay that his or not that it's okay like he needs permission, but it makes sense that his album art is of this guy because
yeah,
nature is kind of a theme that's recurring throughout all of this, and he uses it in various different ways. In this specific song, he mentions lonely minds drifting in the winter or in the fall. So it seems like possibly he cheated on his partner and doesn't really know what the next steps are, but he wants forgiveness. He wants to be let back in.
yeah. And that's like, I don't want to get too ahead of myself in the album, but there I think there are issues in a relationship he's in, talking like
Yeah,
speaking to this album, and I think that some of them are definitely caused by him based on what he said in the album.
right.
So I don't know if it's cheating. It does seem like there might have been some infidelity based on another song that comes later in the album,
Mhm.
definitely. But yeah, this song I get a huge vibe of like failure to communicate, like one person is just shutting another person out and it's like, okay,
Yeah,
no, I'm done. But it's like, let me in, come on.
we need to work this out.
Yeah. And he was married at the time of this album, I'm pretty sure. If not,
Oh,
it was shortly after. So,
interesting.
yeah.
Is he
And
married today?
he is not still married. In fact, that
Okay.
is not the most recent album, but the one before that was about the divorce. So,
Okay. Interesting. I
yeah,
think at some point in this album he mentions divorce.
he does.
So that's interesting to me. But yeah, I out of this track, there's a line that stood out to me that I thought it was interesting. Again, he uses some kind of weird metaphors, but he says it's a feather's weight. But what if it's too late to be building up our muscles and distraught?
Yes.
Just kind of like being the straw that broke the camel's back, right? It's a
Yeah,
small thing, but what if it's too late and there are too many other small things and we can't recover from this kind of a thing? I just thought that was an
definitely.
interesting analogy.
Man, okay. So you took my lyrical example because that's exactly
I'm
that's
sorry.
exactly what I was going to talk about.
It's a good line.
It is a good line. It's a very good line, and it's very relatable because it's like,
Yeah.
especially in like, I don't know, it happens to me a lot. Like, or procrastination, whenever you're putting something off, it can be the smallest of things that
Yeah.
just destroy everything. And I don't
It's
know,
true.
it is a very good line.
Yeah. And the fact that both of us kind of clung to that line in the song just kind of speaks to that, I think. I think it's cool.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'll make a little bit of a segue here because the next song, "Shallow Grave," it
Title track.
title track of the album. I feel like this song is about, first off, banjo on this track. That
Yes.
happens. I love the fact. I love the banjo. I don't know. I just his guitar playing is awesome. It makes me want to play guitar. It makes me want to be out in nature, just sitting on a log in the woods somewhere playing guitar.
You can do it.
It's I
You have a
can do it.
guitar, you have a banjo, you know how to play them.
Kind of. enough
Well,
enough that I could do it. Enough that I could do
you're selling yourself short. You could do it.
it.
I believe in you.
But like this song, I feel like is about trying to lessen the hurt of something that's going to happen in the future and trying to save yourself from that, but realizing it's futile to do that because in reality, you're just digging your own grave. You're just making it a little bit shallower. Like you're just digging yourself a shallow grave by trying to. I don't know. He talks about like being in water.
Yeah, the whole song, I took the song literally.
Yeah,
The whole song, it kinda sounds like he's wanting to kill himself, but also doesn't really have the capacity or the ability to do it in full, or maybe he's having doubts. So
oh shit.
he's the way he's talking about it is like, and I think it makes sense that it's more of a metaphor for digging your own grave metaphorically, but,
Hmm.
he's talking like he raised the ground of the river so that way, like, he could still probably get out if he wanted to. And
Yeah.
I think he starts off by saying he's taking stones out of his pocket, implying that he filled them with pockets to try and drown himself, or whatever. But he's kind of like having doubts. So that's kind of the literal interpretation that I took out of it.
I like that because I was actually looking at the lyrics to this song specifically earlier and saw the line about emptying his pockets full with stones, and I
Yeah,
was like, that there has to be more to that. There has to be. And then you saying
yeah.
something about it, it's like, okay, that's probably what there was to that.
Yeah, so I think a combination of our answers is probably closer to the truth, and that it is something that applies to more than obviously suicide, but that there's a facade of suicide, I suppose.
Hey man, two minds are better than one. We figured it out together.
Indeed. The next track, "Where Do My Bluebird Fly?"
Oh yeah,
I think this is my favorite track on the album.
really?
Yeah, yeah, it's this one or one other track. We can play the guessing game again because it worked so well, previously, if you wanna try and call out the other one.
I
Um,
might.
but, this is another track that seems to be about his relationship failing or shortcoming in it. He's using, autumn in this song as a season to kinda describe his relationship, very similar to "Honey, Won't You Let Me In," where he's the
Hmm.
winter. But, yeah, he's talking about, like, not really, like, knowing where his happiness is going, and he wants it back, being symbolized by his bluebird. He's not really sure where his bluebird has gone.
Man, okay. I'm glad. I'm so glad that you got the happiness bluebird thing because man, are birds like a huge symbol for him.
Yeah,
It's he uses it in so many songs. Like there I think three other songs on this album alone where he uses birds to symbolize happiness, love, just
Yeah,
general feelings.
elation.
Yeah, like an unattainable happiness or love or something like that.
Yeah, because I
And
mean, the happiness is up, right? Birds are
yeah,
literally up, like flying through the air, and they're kind of hard to catch. And I think it's a good symbol.
yeah, definitely. And it's like you said, it seems like in the song he's talking about a lot of different things being wrong with the situation.
Yeah,
And if so many things are wrong, like where can his bird, his happiness fly? Like
yeah,
where can it go? And yeah, this is definitely a song I think about a relationship.
yeah. And there's a couple, like you said, he seems to be struggling with his relationship kind of throughout this track or throughout this album.
Yeah.
And this is another one of those tracks, I think.
Man, why? I'm like putting okay, this is I don't know. Putting thought into all of the albums that I like.
Yeah,
Why are they all about like
breakups.
breakups and relationships and
Well,
like
I don't think it's specifically albums you like. I mean, we've established we're both sad boys. Hashtag
that's
sad boys.
that's true.
But B, breakups are very relatable. That's why there's
They
so
are.
much pop music about it. There's so much of every genre of music about breakups because it's easy to write about and it's very relatable.
That is true. That is very true. Man,
So we just need to get through all of the albums about breakups that you enjoy, and then we'll start realizing there's more that aren't.
but there's that's never gonna happen. I have so many.
That's
I have ones
because
that I haven't even like brought up to you yet, just waiting. I'm just waiting to pull the trigger to be like, yeah, boom, this one,
sad
this one,
boy
this one.
album.
I haven't even I haven't even brought up the saddest of boy albums
Oh
yet.
yeah,
Like
is it on our list?
it's not. I don't even think it's on our list yet. Honestly,
I like
I'll have
sad
to
boy
double check.
albums. Just saying, as long as they don't have horrible vocalists.
Oh my god. Okay, back to the album at hand and not future sad boy albums that we may or
Sure.
may not review. The
Yeah.
next song, "The Gardener." This is one of his most well-known songs, and it's the the song that his namesake kind of fits into. I feel like because at one point he talks about this song is about what I've always seen as him doing so many things to keep up an image of himself in his
Yeah.
significant other's mind. Like he's doing all these things to be like, "No, I want you to see me this way." And he's
Specifically in the literal sense, he's killing people.
yep. And this is the song that I think there may be infidelity on because he talks about the spy in his chimney, I believe. And
Yeah, the spies
he
in his chimney, and there's like a leak in his phone.
yeah, and he wants from all the evidence I've burned, like the spy is in his chimney because of all the evidence he burned. So
Right.
that he's hanging out where he would have burned the evidence and he's killing the spy to get rid of it. So that's kind of what makes me think like whatever's going wrong, he had a part in it.
Yeah,
And
he's trying to cover it up.
yeah, and he's doing all this to stay the tallest man in your eyes. So he
Yeah, he
wants to be
literally says that.
yeah, he wants to be the tallest man on earth in the eyes of this other person.
Yes. It's a very interesting metaphor because he again, the song's called "The Gardener," and he's killing these people and burying them in his garden. And
Mhm.
in the end, I think it ends with him and her walking through the garden, and he kind of
Yep.
feels this like weird happiness that the people that he's killed are giving his garden life, but he's
Yeah.
kind of concealing all of his past flaws to keep his partner with him.
And I mean, in another sense, like the garden itself is a metaphor for the relationship because he
Right.
is the gardener taking care of it,
Yeah.
trying. I guess that's what you were getting at. I don't know. I'm over here
Yeah.
like
It's
trying
fine.
to have revelations, and I'm like, oh, I'm so smart. He's the gardener.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
mean, it's valid.
yeah,
Like I think that's absolutely what the song's about is him trying to maintain his relationship after doing some less than stellar things and trying to hide them. But he's a gardener. He is the gardener and the tallest gardener alive.
Oh my god, that you saying that just made me think of how many times I've tried to Google this guy or like find songs by him on YouTube, and it shows up as like Robert Wadlow, the tallest man that ever lived, or something. And I'm just like, dude, I want to hear music. I don't want to
Yeah.
watch Guinness Book of World Records video. Okay, that's way too off topic. Let's.
It's fine. It's fine. We'll bring it back in. The next track on the album is The Blizzard's Never Seen the Desert Sands.
This is the one. Is this your other favorite song?
This is my other favorite song.
Yes, this
It's
one
another
is.
banjo track.
This is my favorite song on this album.
Cool. So we're kind of on the same page here.
Yeah.
It's another banjo track, which makes sense that it's your favorite because
Hmm.
you're a big fan of banjos.
Man, I love him.
Musically, though, I really enjoy this track through and through. It's all like there's some good melodies, there's good progression in it. I just kind of like the whole thing. Lyrically, kind of going back to what we mentioned earlier, this song seems to be about throwing caution to the wind and just living life however you want to in the moment. Very much
Hmm.
just kind of going with the flow.
I see. I get that. I get that a lot, and I also get another like added, I guess, another layer of it where it's talking about. I mean, the name of the song is "The Blizzard's Never Seen the Desert Sand," talking about how there's beauty, how there's like forces in the world that you can never be aware of.
Yeah,
I don't know, just talking about how singular the experience of a person is, like how insulated it is to be like, okay, well, I grew up, I lived my whole life in this one spot, and there's all this stuff I never saw, but the stuff that I've seen and lived, somebody else in that other part of the world will never see or experience. So I don't know.
right.
It's
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
it's kind of how I've always seen it.
I think what really drove me to the conclusion that I drew is the last like verse, I guess. He says, "I've never understood a written plan. I've set my house on fire because I don't need it anymore,"
Yeah.
which is a very reckless thing to do. But
Don't do that.
yeah. I mean, no, don't do that. Don't do it for any reason. I was going to try and justify it, but don't.
There was a guy 2 grades below me that got arrested for doing that. Don't do that.
That's an interesting story we'll have to talk about at some point in the future, I think. But
But yeah.
yeah, it's a good track. It's second favorite, if not my favorite, tied with "Where Do My Bluebird Fly." Speaking of bluebirds, though,
The Sparrow and the Medicine, the next
"The
track
Sparrow
on
and the
this album.
Medicine" is the next track. Birds.
Birds, dude. I'm telling you. Okay, so this one. Let me get real tinfoil hatty on this one because
Okay.
I think this one ties like I don't know why I said tinfoil hatty, but so it ties into the whole bird thing because he's saying he wants to be the medicine to feed the sparrow in this person's heart.
Yeah.
So he's saying literally talking about there's a sparrow in her heart that he wants to take care of.
Yeah.
And so it's just forcing down your throat the fact that birds equal love, happiness, these good emotions. And
Right.
at the first verse or first chorus, the words that he says are this person is saying, I don't need your medicine.
Yeah.
I don't need the sparrow in my heart. Like they're rejecting his whole even metaphor of having
Right.
the birds mean love or happiness. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
This seemed like another breakup song to me, but it's a bit more complicated than just they don't get along. This one, like you said, it's like she's rejecting him, at least in the state that he's in.
Yeah,
Kind of she says, "I don't want your medicine. I don't need the sparrow in my heart," kind of implying that he's trying to fix something that she doesn't want fixed.
yeah,
And even though he makes her happy, perhaps maybe he's the reason there's a sparrow in her heart. She doesn't need him.
yeah.
And I think it kind of gets muddled in this track a little bit because in the chorus, I guess, of this track, he's saying that he's looking around the corner where he left her.
Hmm.
So he seems to be the aggressor or the person that initiated this conflict, I guess, even though she's not. Maybe that's why she's not like wanting to take him back. Maybe he fucked up and she doesn't want to like let him back in yet. I think
Yeah.
at some point he also refers to alcohol being able to cure his sorrows. Let me see if I can find the lyric here.
Man, it's crazy because you'd think I'd like I've listened to this song so many times, and you'd think I'd just be able to be like, oh yeah, he says it right here in this lyric, but
Yeah.
his music.
I'm not seeing it. Maybe it was. Oh, there it is. So he says, looking around the corner where I left you, wondering whatever led me there, knowing that a quiet, unconscious feeling could be bought to drown a memory anywhere.
Okay, yeah.
So it kind of seems like maybe he was an alcoholic or he got drunk and did something,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe he's just throwing that in there as like saying, "Well, I guess this is how I'm gonna have to deal with it is by
Yeah.
drinking." I also like the song musically. It's probably my third favorite song behind the other two that we mentioned.
Man,
It's
three favorite songs. You
three
must
favorite
really love
songs,
this album.
3 out of 10. We'll get to that. Next track, track
Into the
9 of 10,
Stream.
"Into the Stream." This is the other song that was notably kind of in a religious context, and that it starts off seemingly in the perspective of God creating things
Yes.
for humans to experience, and then it kind of shifts to the perspective of the people, and then the people end up wreaking havoc on each other just to kind of test the boundaries, and that's kind of what the song is about to me, is people kind of taking what they're given and seeing how far they can push that, even though it might not be the best idea or might not have the best outcome.
I just okay. So I 100% agree with you. Like this is, it seems to be a religious song, but as you were just saying that, I kind of had an idea like that maybe he is the religious figure because in
Maybe
this
he's God.
song, yeah, like in this song, per like I guess as it pertains to this song, because like in the gardener, he is the gardener. He is the
Yeah, that's
one
true.
facilitating this whole facade of a relationship or whatever. He is the tallest man on earth. Maybe in this song, as it's talking from God's perspective, it could be that whatever stuff that he's creating in this nature is the relationship that he is trying to save. I'm not 100% sure because like I said, I it just was an idea that popped into my head
Yeah,
while you were talking about it, but like it seems like there could be something there, and I don't know.
yeah. We'll just have to digest that a little bit and think about it.
I'll read up on the lyrics a little bit later.
Yeah, there was once there the last verse of the song I couldn't really get a good read on, and I was curious if you had any ideas. But he says, "Let's say goodbye to the weather girl. Just let her die. When we killed her sound, and when the screen is all dark and charged, the limousine will be parked outside in the street for us to throw into the stream." And I just couldn't really get a grasp on what all that meant.
Oh my. Okay. Uh I
I mean,
don't.
if you don't know either, that's fine. There was just a lot happening that didn't really seem related to me.
Yeah,
Like the
that
weather girl, killing the weather girl and killing her sound and the screen going dark and charged kind of sounds like he's turning off the TV, but I don't know how that relates to a limousine being parked outside, and furthermore how you would throw it into the stream or what that means.
maybe playing off of the newly discovered fact that he is
Fact.
that he, that he is God in this song. The Weather Girl. So the God is in this song specifically talking about creating Earth. So maybe
Yep.
the Earth is this love that they've created. The weather inherently decides what happens to Earth. So
Sure.
maybe this person
Mother
he's in a
Nature.
he's in a relationship with is the weather girl, causing creating this weather that is affecting his love that he has created for her, maybe not even her love for
Yeah,
him, but
that's
just
interesting.
the earth is what he has created for her and she is affecting it directly.
And
So
not necessarily in a way that he's happy about, so he wants her out of the picture, perhaps.
yeah, and like I don't know, talking about he's silenced her. Maybe whatever he's done has caused her to not communicate with him anymore. I'm forming
Yeah,
this
we're
in my
throwing spaghetti.
yeah, like I'm forming this in my head as I'm speaking about it, but like it's just
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
no, not I don't know. This is the stuff I like about trying to figure out albums like this or songs like this is like you just randomly get hit by something and it's like
Yeah,
it could mean this,
stuff
but
clicks.
and then it works with this and this and this and this. But it's I don't know, a limousine, a dart is I don't know, when the screen is all dark and charged, it definitely does sound like a TV like you were talking about. A limousine seems very I don't know,
Glamorous.
yeah, glamorous, like I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I'll
don't
have to
know.
think more
There's
on
a
that.
lot of directions. We'll
Oh
we'll
man.
maybe we'll revisit this at some point in the
Shallow
future, or maybe
Grave
probably just off.
part 2.
If better idea, if you, the listener, have any ideas or interpretations of this, throw it at us. I'd be
Oh my
interesting to see what if you guys can connect the dots for us.
please do. Maybe there's somebody smarter than me out there who can actually just listen to this album and understand it.
I mean, I'm sure we could probably get in contact with the tallest man on earth and ask him.
We probably
Shoot him an
could.
email or something.
I'll just
He
go to
seems
his
like a
YouTube
chill, down to
channel.
earth dude.
He definitely is. Like this guy, especially now. Oh man, you should like
Yeah.
the songs that he wrote for I Love You It's a Fever Dream. He put out demos of all of them as he was writing them on his YouTube channel where he would just play them as he
Hell
was
yeah.
writing them and he
That's
would
dope.
like talk about how we were the inspiration or like I was walking through New York and I thought about this and that's what inspired this song. But
Hell yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, that's a very cool thing to do, I think, as an artist, especially if you have an audience.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Take us home.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was still trying to figure it out. But the last
Yep.
song, this wind and this song, it's I don't know, like the a lot of the album has been finger style, finger picking, like very complicated seeming guitar and banjo parts. This
Yeah.
song is just it's just chords.
Yep.
And it's I don't know, like I think maybe cuz it's kind of a slow way to end the album. Like I don't
Yeah, it kind of
I,
winds everything down a bit and
yeah,
gets a bit
like
real, I think.
I don't know if I'm guessing he did that on purpose like with the chords and like strumming the chords instead of the upbeat kind of finger style stuff that
Yeah.
he's done previously.
I mean,
But
lyrically, I think it makes sense. I couldn't really
yeah.
digest a lot of this song because he kind of goes into those weird abstract metaphors a lot more, I think. But it seemed to me to kind of be about time moving on and wearing us down, whether we like it or not,
Yeah.
as just kind of a general theme. So he says, "Damn, be this wind, it's still moving on into the bones and the bed of my soul," kind of implying that it's like the wind is time, perhaps. Again,
Yeah.
another nature thing that's just kind of wearing him down.
See how I took that. So, the bird metaphor about birds being love and happiness and all that.
Yeah,
The wind is what kind of gives the birds flight. So the wind
that's true.
could be this thing that can carry the love and nurture it and cause it to fly and all that. And he's
I like
saying
that. I like where this is going.
from
I'm with you.
his point, he's saying you said, "Damn, be this wind, it's still moving on in the bed
To
of
the
my
bones and the
bones,
bed of my
yeah,
soul.
bed of my soul." Yeah. So she's saying damn this wind, damn the things that are continuing this love to fly, even though there
Yeah,
may be all of these other things that she's not happy or not sure about. She's saying, damn, be whatever this wind is that's carrying this to make me feel this love in the bed of my soul. Like,
yeah. So you've kind of opened the door then for me. Um, the first and last verse, he's talking about a raven.
mm-hmm,
So it starts off, nobody knew what the raven would do. Nobody knew where their love would go or what it would do. But then at the end, or towards the end, he says, and nobody said that the raven was dead, so you hid all your tears in the grass. So that's kind of like wanting it to end, perhaps, along with what you were saying, but nobody's saying it's over. Nobody's ending it. So you're kind of hiding that you want it to end. You're sure it could look like dew, is what he says, but they're
Yeah.
laughing at you. Which again, he gets a bit weird and says they'll send the clowns when you're lost, which maybe is a diversion to like cheer you back up and say like, hey, there's still something here. Like, be distracted by the clown and don't break up with me, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Man.
There's some of that there. I guess again, kind of like you, this stream of conscious. I'm just kind of babbling about things as they're coming into my mind. I think that makes sense.
I think it makes sense. And that's what's
Yeah.
great. Like,
And he also
see,
mentions an eagle in the song for what it's worth.
yeah. I do think it's weird. Not weird. I think he means something with the fact that the raven seems to be talking about, it seems to be the bird in this song that references her view, like what she's
That's true.
experiencing. And the
So
eagle,
for him, it would be an eagle or even a bluebird, as mentioned previously.
hmm
But from her perspective, it's a raven, which is generally like associated with negativity and death.
yeah. Huh. Maybe we just figured something out, man. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good theory, and it's the best. It's much better than my time theory, but maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it had
Yeah,
a double meaning in there.
I think it could because I mean, birds have like a distinct relation with the seasons. Birds migrate in certain seasons, go leave, they just leave. And
Yeah,
it seems like the fall and the winter were two seasons that were brought up. The birds are leaving in the fall and are gone in the winter. So
right. So yeah,
I
it
don't,
could tie back to like everything else on this album. The line
uh,
specifically in this track that kind of put me on the whole time thing. He says, "As the buildings grew high, you knew nothing about time, but an arrow just brushing your chin," which time is often referred to as an arrow,
yeah,
or at least it travels in as an arrow would. But yeah, so I kind of like latched onto that. But yeah, I think there's a lot going on in that song and in this album that it takes a lot more processing, I think, to get
yeah,
to the truth or the heart of it. Overall, this album, I like it musically, but as we've discussed, it's a bit much to process lyrically, which I don't want to say that I dislike that per se, but I don't listen to lyrics a lot in general.
yeah.
So when I do tend to focus on them, they don't have to be super simple and poppy, but there's a lot of convoluted metaphors that are kind of unnecessary, which again I think could be due to him being Swedish and using Swedish references or idioms or whatever, or just
hmm
him using English in a foreign way. But yeah, I don't hate this album, and it's fun enough to listen to. I don't know if I was in the right mindset to listen to this album and enjoy it in full.
Yeah,
So I think I'll come back to it at some point, or at least this guy's music at some point. I really liked the theme of nature kind of recurring throughout, with the seasons and with the sun and the rain and the thunder and the scenery and stuff that he comes with it. But I don't know. I'm just not crazy about it.
okay. Like I can, everything you've said is completely, like I can completely understand it. There's nothing where I'm like, well, I don't know about that. I don't like,
You're wrong.
yeah, because oh man, like I said, I've been listening to this guy for 6 years now. Six, I don't know, 6 or 7 maybe,
Sure.
since like 2013 ish.
Yeah.
And I still don't know what like half of the songs are fully about. Like I can get the
Right.
general theme of the song, I guess, but I don't know exactly what he's saying.
Yeah, and I think it's a fine enough album for me to just turn off my brain and enjoy it the way I enjoy a lot of music, which is without paying much attention to the lyrics. So
Mhm.
I think it's just because I was forced to, and by forced I mean I'm forcing myself, not that there's an outside force making me do this, but to interpret lyrics because I'm trying to get better with it. But I don't know. it kind of left a bad taste, not really like having a clue. I'm relieved that you also don't have the strongest firm answers for some of the stuff. But yeah, I don't know if it's not something I want to spend my time doing right now,
Yeah,
specifically with this album, because I enjoy the music, but I think there are more entertaining things for me to listen to with
yeah.
it. No offense to the tallest man on earth if you're listening.
Now he's listening and he's crying the whole time.
He's gonna write a song about me and
He
stealing his
is.
birds
No,
or something.
he's gonna write an album about you. That's just the whole album. I would
Yep.
recommend though, if because I'd say to listen to "I Love You, It's a Fever Dream" as
Okay.
if you are to revisit him,
Oh, I will for sure. Again, I don't want to just push this off and say it's bad because it's
or
not.
there's it's not a full album. I'll have to double check what the name of it is. I think it's an EP, and I believe it's called "Sometimes the Blues Just a Passing Bird."
Yep.
Yeah,
2010. Sometimes the blues is just a passing bird.
I'd recommend either that or "I Love You, It's a Fever Dream" if you're gonna
Why not
come,
both?
or both. Or there's, you know what? Actually, scrap. Sometimes it's blue. The blues just a passing bird. Do there's no leaving now.
Okay. It's a full
Okay,
album.
yeah. Either that or "I Love You, It's a Fever Dream." I will tell you, "I Love You, It's a Fever Dream" would probably be more up your alley. It's more
Okay.
instrumentation, more polished. I guess I not saying that you don't like not polished music, but
No, I mean that's totally fair.
I'd say it's more up your alley, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I do, and I think maybe that's why I enjoy speaking to you on music is because we have very different perspectives on music, and we have very different backgrounds with music. Which
Oh
again, I
yeah,
know we keep saying we need to have an episode dedicated to kind of explaining that, but
we do.
I think it's very valid for you to call me out on having a more I guess traditional sense of music or impression of music. So I'm not going to get offended by you drawing that conclusion
Good, you
because
better not.
from my perspective, looking at you, you listen to a lot more raw and unpolished music that
Oh, I
I'm
do.
not generally into.
See, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I could listen to somebody just screaming
Yeah,
for a while, and it's like, I don't know. I have literally no boundaries on what music is, as long as it's noise that affects you, it like
yeah,
alters you in some way. Like that is music, and
I
that
think
is
it's
music
very fair.
that I would enjoy. But that's a discussion
That
for another
is.
time, I
We'll
guess.
get there.
Because I'll just talk forever.
Yeah, we'll both probably maybe have our own episode of
Yeah.
just kind of telling our story. But next week, this coming week, I always do this. Next week, we will be discussing Melodrama by Lorde. It's her second album. It's let me see when it came out. I should have done this 2017, so it's fairly recent. We're gonna be listening to that album this week and discussing it next week. So if you guys want to listen, please do so. If you guys have any notes or thoughts on this album that we've just listened to by the tallest man on earth, please feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever, YouTube, SoundCloud. We're all over the place now. So reach out, let us know what you think. Listen with us to Melodrama by Lorde for this coming week. I guess until next week, stay in our feedback loop.
Bye.